going to do this is we're just going to go one verse at a time, walking through it and studying and seeing what God has for us. So we started Family Month with Joshua chapter 24, verse 15. And we're wrapping Family Month up today. This will be the last message of Family Month, and then we'll move on to something different next week. And then we have Friend Day the week after that, so be looking to see who you can invite to Friend Day. We're going to have a great time then. But today we're wrapping this up. And again, we began this with Joshua chapter 24, verse 15, where Joshua says, "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." He issues this challenge to Israel, and he says, hey, you've had your feet in kind of both camps. You've been worshiping the gods of these people groups around us, and you've also been worshiping Yahweh, the God who created all things. You kind of got a foot in both camps, and he says, hey, today's the day where you decide who it is that you're going to serve. Who are you going to devote yourself to? You can't ride the fence anymore. It's time to make a decision. And he says, as for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. As for me and my house, this is who we're going to be. We're going to be a family that is fully devoted to God. We're going to commit to Him with everything that we have. We're going to choose to serve God. And his motivation for that wasn't guilt. It wasn't this grit that he was trying to muster up within himself. His motivation was a love for God. What motivated Joshua, what motivated the people of Israel was not guilt. It wasn't, hey, you're supposed to do these things, so do them. It was a love for God. He reminds Israel of what God had done for them, that God had been pursuing them throughout their history. That God was now allowing them to enter into a promised land that they did not till the ground at all for themselves, that they didn't earn for themselves. He says, you're entering into a land that I'm giving you. This is a gift to you. It is my mercy. It is my grace. And it's not because Israel was like a really good people. They were just as flawed as every other people group that existed at that time. But God chose to pour his love out on Israel, and he blesses them with this promised land. Joshua says, hey, remember that God is giving this to us. We didn't earn this for ourselves. We're entering into something that we didn't work for. And the same is true for us today. We have this inheritance. We have this grace that has been given to us, this spiritual inheritance that God he's just given it to you freely. Christ lived a perfect life, and not one of us in here remotely measures up to that life. There's not one of us in here who has a life of righteousness, a life of perfection like Jesus did. And so we all fall short of God's glory. We all fall short of the standard, which was Jesus Christ himself. And yet, God says, you know what? I'm going to allow you to share in the reward of Christ. The relationship that Jesus had with the Father, he says, hey, now you can have that if you'll only trust in the righteousness of Christ and not in your own ability to get it right. And so it's that kind of love, that kind of mercy, that kind of grace that wells up within us. Man, God has given me everything. He's held nothing back from me. He has poured out his love and his blessing on me. He has given his son for me so that I can have life. And so what's my response in return? It is a love for him. And that love for him is what motivates us to say, you know what, as for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. And as we've gone through this, we've talked about a couple of practical things. We talked about marriage. God's design for marriage. We talked about God's design for kids, for kids in the household, how they're supposed to obey and honor. And as parents, we're supposed to hold them to that standard. We're supposed to discipline them and teach them to walk in the ways of God. And it's all about God's design. It's all about us as God's people recognizing in our hearts, in our minds, that God's way is the best way. That God's design is right and it is good. And that our way is not right and good. When we choose to go against God's design, we are choosing the distortion, just like Adam and Eve in the garden. We're choosing to go against God's design, and that's where we find death and destruction and pain and heartache. And so this whole series has been about, man, trust God. He has been good to you. He has pursued you. He has loved you with an infinite amount of love that you don't deserve. So love him in return and choose to live out his design for your life. And so today we're transitioning into Psalm 127. And today's challenge is this, that we would choose a bigger purpose for our family. That we would choose a bigger purpose for our family, not just surviving or thriving for ourselves, not mirroring the culture, but mirroring God's design. And so instead of choosing to live for ourselves, we would live on mission for God's glory and his kingdom impact. And so the question for us to wrestle with today as we get into this is, will our family live for ourselves, or will we live for something bigger, the glory of God? So let's go ahead and dive in. The first point this morning is this: we must be dependent on God. If we're going to be a family that chooses a bigger purpose, we must be dependent on God. Look at verse 1 in the text. It says, unless the Lord builds a house, its builders labor over it in vain. Unless the Lord watches over a city, the watchman stays alert in vain. In vain you get up early and stay up late, working hard to have enough food. Yes, he gives sleep to the one he loves. Several years ago, we were living in Lumberton. We decided we were going to try to plant a garden. And it was a very unsuccessful endeavor. But we did all the right things. You know, I went and bought these cedar planks, and we built these boxes that we were going to plant in. We bought the right soil. We bought the right fertilizer. We laid down the weed barrier first. We did all the right stuff. We went and bought seeds and planted it, and we watered it every day like it said we were supposed to do. We checked all the right boxes, and at the end of the day, we had like hardly anything at all come from these plants. We had like a couple of little small little peppers came off of it, but they weren't ever full grown, and they weren't really like good enough to eat. Like just no success at all. Why? Because gardening isn't always a guaranteed process. It's not necessarily A plus B equals C. And neither is parenting. We can cultivate the land and do everything by the book and still end up missing the mark. Parents, do you feel the weight of that sometimes? Do you feel the weight of that? Like, man, we want it to be easy, right? If I just do X, Y, and Z, then my kids will grow up and they'll be faithful to God. They'll love God. They'll be successful. They'll live a fruitful life. They'll be blessed. It's not always that easy. There's not a formula. A lot of people believe that Solomon, or most people believe that Solomon is who wrote this psalm here. And Solomon is someone who built the temple. He built God's temple. He built cities. He had a household dynasty that he had built. But later in life, none of his wisdom, none of his projects or his alliances that he built protected him or his family from corruption. Solomon had built all this stuff, and yet he still saw corruption build up in his family. He had firsthand knowledge of the fact that it all means nothing apart from God. Apart from God, it means nothing. We see this word vain. It's repetitive. It's this repetitive refrain throughout the text there. And it doesn't just mean less than. He's not saying, hey, it's just a less than kind of life. He's saying, no, this is pointless. Apart from God, it's not just that it's less than, it is. It's that it's pointless. It's that it means nothing apart from God. It's a complete waste. So the idea is that you can labor all you want, but at the end of the day, it's pointless without God in it. Proverbs 16, verse 9 says, a man's heart plans his way, but the Lord determines his steps. What's the point there? We can have all the best intentions. We can check all the boxes and think, man, I got this figured out. I got this life thing figured out. I'm going to do all the right things. And still at the end of the day, it's God who orders our steps. We think we're in control. We are completely foolish. We have zero control. Zero control. It's God who is in control. And this is true of our families. What we're talking about, when we're talking about raising kids, it's inherently spiritual. It's inherently spiritual. It's not just physical. It's spiritual. There's no guaranteed prescription for raising kids. Again, you think if you do X, Y, and Z, your kids are going to turn out the way you want. But Solomon is saying it doesn't work that way. You can work hard to develop good kids, but it's all pointless apart from God's divine presence. It's pointless without God's power. It's pointless without God's provision. If God is not at work in your kids, then it's all vanity. It's all pointless. It's meaningless. That's what he's saying in verse 2. He's talking about this anxiousness, this worry, this busyness that still leads to nothing apart from God. Jesus said in John 15, verse 5, he says, I'm the vine, you're the branches. The one who remains in me and I in him produces much fruit because you can do nothing without me. There is no formula for raising kids who love God. There is no formula for raising kids who are going to be faithful to him with their lives. We can do nothing apart from God. We can do nothing apart from the work of Christ. There's no set of guidelines to guard your kids from the world. We are laborers, and we need the Lord of the harvest to be fruitful. Matthew 9:37, Jesus again talking, he says, the harvest is abundant, but the workers are few. Therefore, pray to the Lord of the harvest to send out workers into the harvest. There's this dichotomy in our mind of like, man, either I'm going to work and make my kids become what I want them to become, or I'm going to completely not do anything and just say, well, I'm just going to trust God and he'll do it all. But we see in the text is, no, we have a calling on our lives. The calling on your life as a believer, as a Christian, is to be a laborer in the field. It's to do the work. You've been called to do the work, but we have to recognize that when we're doing the work, we have zero control over the fruit. We have zero control over the outcomes. And so we do our best. We do the best that we can with what we have to raise our kids to love God. We make sure that we're teaching them, that we're training them, that we're being intentional with it all. But at the same time, we have zero control over it. God is the Lord of the harvest. He's the one who changes hearts. Paul talks about this in 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 6. He says, I planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the growth. So then neither the one who plants nor the one who waters is anything, but only God who gives the growth. It's God who transforms our hearts. It's God who transforms our children's hearts. It's God who transforms our families. Here's the point. We need God. We can't do this alone. We can't do this alone. We need God. And so what's our practical response to this truth? Prayer. When you realize you have zero control, that should bring you to your knees in prayer. And God, please get a hold of my kids' hearts. Please transform my kid. Please guard my kid from the idols of this world around us. I talked about this a little bit last week, but our kids, like Carter's 16, about to be 17 in a couple of weeks. Jackson's 15. And when they're little, it feels like you have a little bit of control, right? Like a little swat on the butt goes a long way to make them do what you want them to do. When they're as tall as you and stronger than you, that doesn't work. Right? At some point, there's this shift that begins to take place where they become their own person. And you start to realize, I have zero control. And there's other people in this world that have greater influence in their lives than I do. And so what does that do? Man, the past year, I have spent more time praying for my kids than I have in their entire lives. Just, God, please guard their hearts. I mean, I know you can feel the weight of this world and the draw and the pull away from the things of God. You can feel it. You can sense it. If you have kids, especially if you have older kids, man, it's got to weigh heavy on your heart. It eats at me. But I can do nothing about it. You can do nothing about it. We have to realize, man, if we want to have families that make a kingdom impact, if we want our families to be centered around God and His Word, we have to realize that we are God-dependent, not self-dependent. And that needs to elicit, man, a newfound prayer life where every day we're just on our knees. God, save my kids. God, guard their hearts. Guard their hearts. Guard their affections. The big idea here is you can try to guard your kids with curfews, filters, and rules, but only God can guard their hearts. You can try to protect your kids and do it, man. You're a laborer in the field, do your best. But at the end of the day, only God can guard their hearts. The next point is this. We must be about the glory of God. We must be about the glory of God. Look at verse 3. He says, sons are indeed a heritage from the Lord, offspring a reward. Carter has gotten to where he's been trying to play guitar and learn to play guitar. He's led worship for the youth a couple times, and when he said he doesn't have like a acoustic guitar that you can plug in. He's got one that's just, you just play or whatever. And so he said, Dad, can I borrow your guitar? Well, if you play guitar, you realize like that's your baby kind of. You're like, I've seen how you take care of your stuff, and I don't know that I want to give you my thing, one of my prized possessions, you know. And so, but of course, I'm like, yeah, dude, like I want to support this. Like this is something that I think is cool that you're doing, and so I want to support it. So yeah, you can take it, but let's have a conversation first. If you break it, you die. Basically, is what the conversation was. You better guard it. You better keep it. Right. This is some responsibility. You're stewarding this gift that I'm giving you, right? And so I expect him to take care of it, to make sure it doesn't get broken. I expect him not to use it in a way that dishonors my wishes, right? Why? Because it's mine, and I'm letting him steward it. This is what we learn in the text.